Well, it's Wednesday, and you all know what that means. Well, as you know, we have WWE Evolve, of course. We have, of course, what happened at the end of last week's episode, where we saw in the VIP lounge PJ Vasa going at it with Karmen Petrovic, which led to a match that was set up by the foreman himself. Of course, we had the It's Gall Open Challenge, which is very interesting. But the main event features, as you know, the Mog Squad continue to be a pain in the ass in Evolve. Well, the ID guys decided to once again step up the plate, but however, there was a bit of a hassle that took place, and we all know what happened, but we will talk about that as we go. And then, of course, we move on with AEW Dynamite Summer Blockbuster. Of course, we have Mark Briscoe taking on Pac. We even have, of course, two matches involving the Owen Hart Tournament. One is, of course, is the last of the quarterfinals in the women's tournament. And, of course, there was a bit of a change of the tournament matches, of course. And then the main event features, of course, Swerve Strickland versus Brody King in the semifinals of the Owen Hart Tournament. So that's going to be a lot of fun to enjoy. But, of course, as you know, in AEW, the hunt for the AEW World Title is continued to press on. So we'll see how things will go from there. And then, as always, we'll wrap up our episode, as usual, to give you guys some news updates on what's been happening in the world of wrestling, such as what events the promotions are thrown out, who's booked, what matches are set, including developments that are happening in the world of wrestling as we speak. So, let's get ready for another episode of the Deleted Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Hey everyone, welcome to the Deleted Wrestle Zone, all things that is pro wrestling with AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, TNA, the National Wrestling Alliance, various promotions, wrestlers, matches, and championships. I am your host, J-Rod here. So, if you are new to the channel, welcome. This is a channel we do a lot of pro wrestling reviews from various promotions, not only here in the United States, but also in Japan, Mexico, Canada, Europe, the UK, anywhere pro wrestling is not as big, but it continues to grow. We also, of course, do discussion videos, talk about various topics such as the wrestlers themselves, the promotions, factions, storylines, whatever we want to talk about. We also, of course, do more news updates. If certain information was unable to be on this episode, we can either put it on the next one or on a separate video by itself. We also, of course, do some real-time news updates to keep you guys on alert if something has happened in the world of wrestling that needs to be addressed ASAP. We also, of course, got through Nagi Sayaka Watch and various other cool wrestling content as well. So if you like what you see, please subscribe to us and click on that subscribe button. You'll be getting a lot of daily reviews and other cool wrestling content as well. But if you like this episode, please give us a like on the like button or a nice comment in the description down below. Now, enough of the jibber jabbers, let's get started. So of course, let's begin with WWE Evolve. Okay, WWE Evolve. Now, if you guys saw what happened last week, at the end of the programming, we saw, of course, at the VIP lounge, something happened between PJ Vasa and, of course, Karmen Petrovic, who were in fact watching the main event that featured the Women's Evolve Championship match. We don't know exactly what really happened. All we know is that PJ Vasa went all out on Karmen Petrovic, which led by Foreman Thatcher to set up a match. Now, before we start with the match, we did see, of course, Marcus Mathers and Sam Holloway, Team ID, as you know, who are now in the process of dealing with the Mog Squad, who's been nothing but a pain in the butt recently. However, they were set up to be in a six-man tag with Cappuccino Jones. Now, they asked Marcus asked Sam Holloway as he heard from him. They said they haven't until they heard a noise, and it resulted that he was injured. Now, it doesn't take a genius to figure out who was behind it, because if you saw right behind them, you see the Mog Squad. Now, of course, the Mog Squad are trying to ensure that things go exactly their way, which obviously is what they want. But the real question is, what's going to happen? Well, later on, we did hear that Cappuccino Jones was not medically cleared, so that led to a bigger problem. Now, let's jump into the first match, PJ Vasa and Karmen Petrovic. Now, honestly, this match was interesting. Now, for those who have seen Karmen Petrovic, we know that she has skills as a martial artist, which has always been helpful. Now, when it comes to PJ Vasa, we know for a fact she does bring in the powerhouse. Now, obviously, many people would assume that PJ Vasa, because of her power and strength, it's going to be the factor that allow her to win. But no, it was in fact, of course, Karmen Petrovic's will and determination to win this match until she tried the petrifier, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it's over. So basically, Karmen Petrovic could be in the talks of hopefully becoming the next challenger for the Evolve Women's Championship. Now, the Mog Squad, as you know, once again, it was confirmed, yep, it was them who attacked Cappuccino Jones in hopes of leaving this whole thing in a 3-on-2 advantage. And then, of course, they bump into Elijah Holyfield. Well, they said something to him, but of course, they changed their tune when they realized you don't want to mess with a guy who can tear you apart. So they kind of shut up, which is good. Now, personally, I thought that he was going to be the replacement for Cappuccino Jones. I'm not sure. That's what I thought, to be honest with you. Now, once again, Tristan Angel is trying to act like he thinks that he's better than everyone. He thinks that he is perfect. And then he decided to insult, of course, a particular person who wears denim. And that is, of course, Chaz Starboy Hall. And he shows up and he asks him, why denim? And then later, you know, they got into a brawl and a fight. But it was, of course, a Starboy who, in fact, was on top. And I'm sure Tristan Angels is not going to forget the humiliation. Now, the real question we ask ourselves, because of what happened to Cappuccino Jones, who's going to side with them be the third man in the 6-man tag team match? Well, Marcus Mathers was on the phone while Sam Holloway was pasting. Apparently, they got a call and they said that whoever he was down and joining the fight. So we just don't know who it was. Now, personally, like I said, I thought it was Elijah Holyfield, because he probably would have teach the Mog Squad a lesson. But no. Now, as you know, recently, Itzgal went on a soul searching, so he set up a match for himself called the Open Challenge. But the real question is who was going to answer it. And this was surprising, and it was Cutler James who returned. We had, representing Dark State. So basically, that's what was going on. And of course, Itzgal put up a hell of a fight. I mean, he would have picked up a great win. But however, it was just way too much for him. Because Cutler James, as you know, the Dark State are determined to take over WWE regardless. But he did put him away with the helicopter slam. And just like that, 1, 2, 3, James picked up the win. However, he did put out a post-match saying that they're taking over everything. Everything in WWE. That includes Evolve. So we'll see what happens from there. Now, Braxton Cole, well, he is an arrogant prick who decided to make fun of Harlan Lewis because he's saying that he was going to give him a job as a janitor. Now, if I was Harlan Lewis, I would definitely try to beat the crap out of him. You know, he even said he'd call his dad in order to give him a job. But Braxton Cole thinks that he is above him, that he's far more better. And Braxton Cole, you're nothing. You're just at the bottom. So if I was him, watch out what we say. Now, Noam Dar went to check up on Romero Moreno, as you know. Moreno asked him about teaming up to deal with Cam Hendricks and Harley Riggins. And of course, they decided to do it. So that could happen next week. Now, our main event, we saw the Mog Squad consistent of Santi Rivera, Jacobry Ball, and of course, the Max Abram. And of course, CJ Valor was there in the corner. But the real question is, who's joining Marcus Mathers and Sam Holloway? Well, the answer was shown. It was none other than our current Men's Evolve champion, Aaron Rourke. Now, it's obviously for everybody who don't know, Max Abrams has made it perfectly clear that he wants to be at the top. And he did that by targeting Aaron Rourke, and that's exactly what he intends to do. And that is the one thing that we were all expecting. Now, we would have assumed that Aaron, Matters, and Holloway would have had this match, but of course, CJ Valor got involved and caused a distraction onto, of course, Mathers until the famous Sir by Abrams played out, and just like that, 1, 2, 3. And then, of course, during the post match, Abrams took the Men's Evolve Championship and made it perfectly clear he wants this belt in 2 weeks' time in succession. That is his game. He wants to be at the top, and that's what he's going to do. Now, if I was Aaron Rourke, if you want to make sure the Mock Squad do not interfere, have your guys deal with them. And that's exactly what he would do. But also, do not bring those security guys. Those guys are a bunch of pricks. In my opinion, that's what they are. So that's pretty much what happened in Evolve. So we'll see what happens next week. I'm sure Timothy Thatcher will probably make the consideration of having the main event being Aaron Rourke defending the Evolve Championship against Max Abrams. So we'll see. So right now, let's move on with some AEW Dynamite Summer Blockbuster. Okay, AEW Dynamite Summer Blockbuster. We opened up with Tony Schiavone, as you know, making his way in the ring, calling out Tommaso Ciampa to join him. However, there was a lot of reasons we've been asking. Why is Tommaso Ciampa really targeting Chris Jericho? So, of course, he was not going to give his reasons. He said he has about 1,000-something reasons why. And Jericho showed up. So he wanted to hear it from himself, because he told him, if you just wanted a match against me, all you had to do was ask. But of course Ciampa decided. But this led into a brawl out of nowhere. So we will see those two face off. So can't wait to see that. Now, Don Callis, as you know, was talking to the newest member of the Don Callis family. And of course, the real question we ask ourselves, as you know, it seems that everybody is aiming for the AEW World title, especially its own members of the Don Callis family. Kevin Knight continues he wants to have it. So does Andrade, and that's the problem right there. Now, this is one of the main reasons I think Don Callis is too careless not to understand, because we did have two guys who did not help each other, who had a problem with each other, and that was a mistake on his part. Now, our first official match is the AEW Continental Championship. Jon Moxley facing off against Shane Taylor. Now, if you all know, Shane Taylor made it perfectly clear he feels, hey, Death Riders, your time's up, pals. Get the hell out of here. This is our time. And they try to prove themselves. They are far more dangerous than the Death Riders. They claim, Death Riders, you have become too soft. And that's exactly what they tried to do. But of course, those idiots, the Shane Taylor promotion, they were told, sorry guys, you got to get out. Continental rules. So basically, Shane Taylor forgot. There's no seconds involved. Even the Death Riders were not there, and that was one of the main reasons. But of course, Shane Taylor tried to put up a hell of a beating onto Moxley, until of course Moxley overcome it by applying a bulldog choke, and just like that, it was over. But of course, Shane Taylor, being the sore loser that he is, decided to clock at him. And of course, Daniel Garcia tried to help him out, but the infantry stopped him in his track. And so did Marina Shafir, but that was Trish Adora who put him on the tracks. And that's what led to this whole thing. Now, we did see Jon Moxley. They were not happy with the whole thing. He's saying that you could have walked away. But no, you didn't. You had to put your pride first. And Daniel Garcia said that in Collision, it's going to be a street fight between both Death Riders and Shane Taylor Promotions. Now, in an exclusive video, of course, on their social media, Shane Taylor Promotions says, I know your weakness, Jon Moxley. I know your weakness. It's the loyalty of the Death Riders. That is the reason it's going to fail. So he thinks their loyalty is the reason it's going to make them lose. Because here's the thing. Shane Taylor doesn't need loyalty. He needs people who would agree with them. It's time to kick ass. So we'll see what happens until then. Now, we did see a bit of vignette with Mercedes Moné. As you know, we haven't seen her for 6 months. Not since, of course, losing every championship. But now she feels things have not been the same, and it's time for her to reclaim what is hers. And that is, of course, winning the Owen Hart Tournament and winning the AEW Women's Championship. So that's going to be the main goal for her. So she knows right now her next opponent in the Owen Hart Tournament is Azuki. So we're going to see how things go from there. Now, as you know, we did see Don Callis, of course, along with Kevin Knight. And of course, Kevin Knight decided to say that Darby Allin was a failure for losing his title, and so did Speedball. So he thinks that everyone's at fault but himself. So that's exactly what he thought. But however, he even called out MJF, but instead of that, he got Darby Allin and then he whacked him with the skateboard. And he told him, "I hope New York was worth it, bitch." And of course, he was about to wipe one out until, of course, the Don Callis family decided to show up. Too late, of course, and walked off. And I'm sure Don Callis is not happy with this. He might have thought they got rid of Darby Allin, but he is not easy to take out. Now, before the start of the next match, Mark Briscoe was talking to Tony Khan. We had no idea what was going on between those two. But it seems there was a moment where Tony Khan was agreeing with Mark Briscoe for whatever he said to him. So I'm sure people were rather curious about that. Now, Mark Briscoe make his way to the ring to take on Pac. Man, this match was a brawl that you wouldn't believe. Of course, it was going back and forth between them until, of course, we thought the Pac was about to do the Black Arrow, but he didn't. He used a shooting star press. But Mark Briscoe was ready with the knees, and then he takes him out with the Dre Driller. 1, 2, 3. It was over. And then, of course, in the post-match promo, Briscoe called out MJF because, as you know, Mark Briscoe wants the AEW World Title. But MJF saying, "Sorry, pal, you're not even worthy to become AEW World Champion. I'm trying to save AEW from you." And then he said he hired people to take him out, and he hired, of course, the Lethal Twist, Tweedledee, Tweedledum, and Tweedle Idiot, of course. And, of course, the conglomeration showed up to deal some matters of that. But, of course, this is where things got interesting. MJF claims that he holds the power to everything, but Briscoe told him, "You're not the one in charge, MJF. Tony Khan is." So he told him that I'm going to get 5 of my guys, you find 5, and we're going to have a match. And if I win, I get a title shot. And he said, but however, he did say the sicko that, of course, Tony Khan is, he made this match into a steel cage, which is the last thing that MJF wants. But Tony Khan made it happen. Now, before anything else, we move on to the next match, which features Orange Cassidy, who was facing up against Andrade. Now, MJF was still in the ramp, looking down until Andrade showed up and looks at him like saying, "I want your belt, man." That's what he's telling him. He wants him and his belt. And that's the last thing he wants too. And of course, I thought the match was really fun. We did see, of course, the removal of the pants. Like, we've seen Andrade do that all the time. And then, of course, we saw that with Orange Cassidy. There was like jeans beneath the jeans, that sort of thing. And I thought it was funny. But the one thing that was really fun, it was crazy, well, of course, Don Fallis was there too, acting like he thinks that he was doing journalism. No, prick. You just want to make sure he wins the match because you can't stand to lose. That's the problem. But all of a sudden, we just saw, it's fine. It's fine. And of course, he took a selfie with Orange Cassidy. Orange like, oh, I don't know what to do. And then later, he interacted with Andrade, and he was like, "How'd you know?" He told me. How'd you know? I thought it was pure gold right there. It was so amazing. But of course, the match continued on. But unfortunately, Orange Cassidy once again ended up losing this match. Of course, in a DM, and just like that, it was over. But of course, Andrade put out a post-match promo. As you know, I mentioned he wants the AEW, and he made perfectly clear that's what he wants. Now, we did see what happened this past Wednesday when Will Ospreay, of course, won the semifinals of the Owen Hart Tournament, and now he has to wait who comes out between both Brody King and Swerve. Of course, he felt like Mark Briscoe really put up a hell of a fight on him to him, and he even said that this is the one thing he didn't want to say, but he felt like he owed something to the Death Riders. And then you see, of course, Alex Windsor run up to him like crying because, as you know, he made it all the way to the finals. So this is going to be a very interesting moment between them. Now, Tekla, as you know, put out a vignette, of course, making it clear to that of course at Forbidden Door is death to Stardom and Total Okada, because as you know, she still goes on bitter about being fired in Japan and that kind of thing. So we'll see what happens from there. Now, our next match is the women's quarterfinals of the Owen Hart Tournament. Sky Blue takes on, of course, Maya World. Now, for those who don't know, Serene was scheduled to be in this match, but due to the situation that she was out on neck injury, the AEW doctors made it perfectly clear they don't feel comfortable with her wrestling in this condition. So it was decided that she'll be pulled out of this match and replaced. Now, originally we were hearing that it was going to be Takumi Iroha, of course, Cerise tag team partner, but instead it became Maya World, and that kind of sets it up. Now, many of us would have assumed in some capacity that it was Sky Blue that was going to win this match, but man, Maya World took up a hell of a fight. But what's really surprising is how she won. She applied like a somewhat of a roll up and then applied like a bit of a jackknife type, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, she made it into the semifinals, and now she has to confront, of course, her mentor, Athena. So that's going to be interesting to see. Now, we did see a bit of a vignette with Zack Sabre Jr., who's making his return for the Forbidden Door, and this time he calls out Kenny Omega. So this time he's like saying, I'm the best in the world. But as for you, Kenny, are you, dickhead? So basically, it's going to happen. Now, Don Callis, as you know, are happy what's been happening for their family, until MJF's saying that he needs 5 of his guys to deal with Mark Briscoe and all. Now, of course, Don Callis was a bit hesitant about this until, of course, you know, like people say, money talks. So he gave him a briefcase full of money. So he's like, okay, we'll talk business on that. So that sort of thing. And Kevin Knight put himself in the position saying he wants in, but he told them, if we do win, you get a title shot. But if you don't, you're never gonna get one. So Kevin Knight agreed to the terms. But Andrade, as you know, is not happy with the result that Don Callis is gonna work with him. Of course, Andrade doesn't like this idea, but when it comes to money, he knows it. But if I was Andrade, I would think twice, maybe breaking away from Don Callis. Now, our main event is the men's semifinals of the Owen Hart Tournament. Swerve Strickland and Brody King. Now, this is not the first time these guys have fought each other. These guys fought each other for who is the most dangerous man in AEW. And last time it was Swerve. But man, Swerve made, of course, Brody King bleed. And of course, Swerve did everything humanly possible to try to take him out, try to destroy him in every way. And not to mention Nana gets involved. But unfortunately, this match ended with Swerve picking up the pinfall. 1, 2, 3. It's over. Swerve goes to the finals. He's facing off against Will Ospreay. So that's going to be an epic battle. Now, we do know these two have worked together before, but now they're going to be standing right across from each other. So I can't wait to see how this match turned out. So right now, we are officially done with our reviews. Let's move on to our last and final thing to wrap up our episode, news updates. Okay, so welcome to our news updates. So let's begin with upcoming events, starting with GCW. Now, as you know, GCW will be in Cincinnati, Ohio on the 19th of June for Race Against Time. It was announced that the GCW Ultraviolet Championship will be on the line. The current champion, Otis Cogar, will defend it against Anakin Murphy. And then, of course, we have the Tussle in Tulsa that will take place on the 19th of July in Tulsa, Oklahoma. It was announced that KJ Orso and Stam Stackhouse will take on a guys I never heard of called the Trendsetters. I don't know who these guys are, but yes, that's a match. Now, a new show has been announced, of course, first time ever, and this one's called the Top Play, of course, and this will happen on the 31st of July, and it's going to take place in Omaha, Nebraska. This will be their debut show over there, to making their presence known. Now, as you know, we are now in the month of June. We have West Coast Pro with Cruel Summer on the 20th of June. They just announced Travis Williams of Sinner and Saint taking on Lee Moriarty. That's going to be a big match. Then we have, of course, another name added for the RevPro Women's Grand Prix that will happen on the 25th of July. We have Emerson Jane, who many of you may have seen her in Pro Wrestling Eve and other promotions around Europe. We have ETU for Summer Madness on the 25th of July as well. Two things have been announced. One is the announced that Violence is Forever, Kevin Koo and Dominic Guarini will be appearing. And then we have a match that was announced. We have Marcus Mathers taking on Hot Sauce Tracy Williams. Now, before we proceed, people are asking, Tracy and Travis. No, they're not the same. They're two different people. But they're not related, in case anybody asks. I would have known about that, but no. Now, Kitsune Women's Wrestling has announced for the Stay With Me event that will happen in Carson City on the 26th of July. They announced the Viva Van will be making her presence known. And then finally, of course, we have House of Glory for High Intensity on the 7th of August. And they just announced the current House of Glory Tag Team Champions, the Hardys, will be there too. So that's going to be fun. So that's pretty much it for upcoming events. Now let's talk about certain developments. First things first, we want to give a happy anniversary to both twin sisters, Hina and Rina from Stardom. Now, as you all know, they are celebrating their 9th anniversary as pro wrestlers. So that's, you know, they are currently 19 years old or 20, somewhere around there, and they started out very, very young, guys, and that's impressive. For those who may not know, they were sponsored by Kairi Sane. She got them into this, and of course, they're doing very well. Many people say Rina is going to be a top star. So is Hana. I don't know about Hina. I know Hina has been trying to catch up to her sisters, that sort of thing. Now, another promotion called Dreamwave, as you know, also will be made a deal with Stardom. I'm pretty sure we're going to be seeing 4 of the talent that they said that it's going to be appearing during the summer. And more details will be mentioned about that. Now, some interesting developments were coming. Rey Mysterio was on 6 Feet Under, which is the podcast to The Undertaker, along with his wife, Michelle McCool. Certain things, topics, and one of them is, of course, his daughter, Aaliyah. Many of you may have heard that Aaliyah is actually learning how to be a pro wrestler, and there's that. So basically, she'll be joining the fray, and he mentioned that too. He even talked about, of course, coming the full circle with AAA, because many of you don't know. He said something about that. Let me pull that up real quick. He was talking about the whole thing with the AAA. Yeah, he said that, you know, when I started at 14, I began to wrestle locally in Tijuana, still going to school. Every morning I would wake up, cross the border, Montgomery High School in San Diego, finish high school to do my part-time job, Godfather's Pizza, from 4 to 6, 2 hours, sometimes 2 or 8.5, and that's when it was done there. Take the trolley back to the border, cross the border, take a cab or the bus to the house. I would have roughly about half an hour, 45 minutes to do homework. And then 8 o'clock, wrestled, school started, and I would go to wrestle in the class. And I did everything throughout my day, wait for those least 2 hours of my day, because I really love being there. But I wrestled from 14 to 17, about 17. At the age of 17, AAA was going to start, and remember Conan giving me a call that he goes, bro, here's your opportunity. You got to come down in Mexico. Now's your chance. I was like, what's going on? He goes, we're getting ready to start a promotion, AAA, and this is where where you want to be. He's like, I can't leave. I'm in 11th grade. My parents aren't gonna let me just take off. He's like, don't worry, I talked to them. What about my girlfriend? Well, if she loves you, she'll wait, which she did. She waited for me, even helped me, and everything just kind of fell into place. He convinced my parents that I can go to Mexico during vacation when that had happened. I never came back. I started just expanding, getting bigger and bigger. Crazy enough that I was able to say I was the first ever AAA show on the live television, and see the full circle now. It's insane. So yeah, so basically he was 17 years old when this promotion just started, and I remember how much of a how things were starting out in AAA. I've been hearing the stories about that, but it would make absolute sense about that, of course. But of course, Rey Mysterio even talked about on 6 Feet Under about, of course, Grande Americano, and he said this. He said, I think the main reason why the AAA fans embrace El Grande Americano is because he took time to soak himself in the Mexican culture, learn the language, be one of them, and the fans just embrace him beautiful. Yeah, it's true. I mean, look, he speaks Spanish fluently, obviously, and people love him. And he mentioned El Grande Americano mentioned this during a bit of a sort of like a one-on-one session on YouTube. You can find it on WWE Espanol, where he talks about he feels that living here in the States was never his home, but he feels more at home in Mexico and that sort of thing. So that's one of the things that he talked about. Now, moving on, as you all know, there was in the past with TNA, there was one problem that people had, and that it's Dixie Carter. Now, of course, many people can say that Dixie Carter was the reason TNA was falling apart. And one person, in fact, confronted her, and that is, of course, Big Papa Pump Scott Steiner. And I think he talked about that recently. Let me pull that up real quick. Yes, he says, out of all the crap went down, he was the only one that I'm going to be pointing fingers. Dixie Carter and looked her eye and said, Dixie, you're effing up bad. I'm telling you, you are screwing yourself bad. And Jarrett said, that's the kind of friendship that started in '88. People don't really know the loyalty, fierce loyalty Scotty really does have in his heart, what people's best. So yeah, I mean, I get it. I mean, look, we all agree that Dixie Carter was responsible for that and that kind of thing. I just don't know exactly and to what extent. I know that Eric Bischoff said that she had no idea what she's doing, and I believe him, that sort of thing. But yeah. Now, moving on. Apparently, as you know, AEW are claiming that Ryan Nemeth has misrepresented and misled them through his misconduct and voluntary dismissal. His lawsuit filed in February of 2025 against the company by agreeing to take the matter to private aberration. Yeah, so whatever was going on. So it seems that there was more to what was going on when Ryan Nemeth just separated himself from them. So whatever it was is kind of interesting. Now, Undertaker, as you know, he kind of was put in charge of AAA. He's told people that he gets a lot of calls from people saying that they would love to come down to AAA, and he was like, how crazy it is. Some people are saying that this might have been working out very well for AAA. I know AAA in the past have been declining, losing fans, wrestlers are not being paid very well, and that sort of thing. And it seems like they're working very. And some people say that AAA is probably going to surpass WWE. I'm not sure, but yeah. Now, there was a key factor that many people were asking about Mercedes Moné before she returned for the Owen Hart Tournament. Well, this is what she said. I think it's very interesting because I like how people can be that dumb, presume what they think they know, but in reality they don't. Let's pull that up. I know I saw it here somewhere. Here it is. This is what she said on the Mone mag. He says, I went back and I felt better than ever. Almost 6 months away. I never had a break that long that wasn't due to injury. And after 16 years, it was the first time. And I got truly to relax and have no worries. But one thing I realized during the time I was away, I miss wrestling so much, especially that AEW. While I was gone, all I saw the rumors. Oh, she's pregnant. Oh, contract issues. Oh, she's leaving. Oh, this. Oh, that. Yeah, I get that. Oh, it's nothing. Can I really enjoy my vacation in peace? Can a woman have a period and be bloated? Can I enjoy my time off without speculation and rumors? One thing I learned is that there's nobody more impatient than wrestling fans. You all, you're all the type people that who look up the ending of the movie before it finished. You love not to, you love not being surprised. You love not being presented and fully in the moment because you're caught up in a fantasy, but now the wait is over. I get it, I mean, I understand that she needs a break. It wasn't due to injury or anything, which is good. But of course, it's really ridiculous that people presume what they think they know. And I get it, you know. Now, Andre Chase, many of you remember he was released from WWE. Very interesting factor was really about him. He, as you know, WWE never did consider him as a wrestler who will be at the top. They wanted to use him as a coach. But Andre Chase said, look, pay me less just to put me in the ring. Yeah, folks. So he's telling them, don't pay me the full amount, just pay me less, the less amount so I can beat wrestling. And that is a very interesting thing to hear, I'm like, I never knew that. But, of course, sadly, they had to let him go. So that's what happened. So that's pretty much it for our developments here. So, and everything else, let's call it a day. Well, I hope everybody enjoys this episode. Coming up, as you probably know, we have Ring of Honor and, of course, TNA taking place. Now, I'm not sure if I'll be able to do another review. I couldn't do another one for this one due to some other things I was working on, but we'll see how things will go from there. But like I said, the priority is going to be Ring of Honor and TNA, so we'll leave things as. If there's any opportunity of another review, we'll see what happens. So don't hold your breaths on that. So until then, I will see you guys in the next DWZ time, same DWZ channel. I must bid all of you adieu. So, goodbye, and have a nice day.